Good morning, kids, and today we're checking out a kind of a brand new video from Outside Xbox of 7 needless multiplayer modes that nobody seemingly asked for. Let's hop in and see which games got an update they probably didn't need. Let's go.
Me, personally, I try to get by doing the least amount possible. Is that enough for the intro? Alright, fine.
Couple
Perhaps
more
I
mods.
should take inspiration from the developers who made these spectacularly ambitious multiplayer modes that came out of absolutely nowhere and in some cases spawned entirely new genres. In fact, you know what? I'm already feeling more inspired. Let's make this a list of 700.
I have plans this evening.
7 it is.
700?
People are rarely who they seem.
Assassin's Creed Brotherhood
Pious,
multiplayer.
beautiful,
Yeah, okay.
even noble.
You got one assassin and everyone else is
Assassin's Creed
hidden.
is a series about an ancient order that has somehow
think.
managed to forge a successful career in assassination, even though A, they have an instantly recognizable uniform, and B, that uniform is objectively the least stealthy color, white.
I mean, he's
It's seen
right.
coming a mile off. Introduced in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the multiplayer mode for the old Assassin's Creed games contained some mechanics from the main game, but applied a complex new set of rules to turn it into a competitive game of murderous hide and seek.
Oh yeah.
Each player chose a particular character and then you were placed in a map filled with NPCs using the same selection of character models. The way you found your target among the crowds of identical looking people was to wander around and fill up the ring below your character.
The blue radar beacon now becomes a full circle, indicating we're right next to our target.
A sort
Aha.
of donut
There
of
you go.
detection, if you will. And I will.
Donut detection. Not bad. Does that
The
thing
reason
have
this was
peanuts
so
on it?
interesting and felt so different from the main game was that it was almost a test of your acting skills. In order to throw your pursuers off the scent, you were trying to hang out with groups of similar looking characters and behave exactly like a standard NPC, in the hope that they'd accidentally stab an AI controlled person instead of you and earn you extra points.
It's quite literally just hide and seek, but in Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed's multiplayer mode now feels like it was way ahead of its time. Multiplayer social stealth is now a huge genre, with Among Us in particular building a massive player base and even breaking out into mainstream culture. You can even buy branded boxer shorts for pity's sake.
No
Though
way.
Don't get upset if someone describes the
real?
contents of them as sus. Unfortunately, your chance to play Assassin's Creed's unique brand of social stealth multiplayer games is vanishing by the day. Brotherhood servers shut down on all platforms back in October 2022, and Assassin's Creed Revelations will close its servers on January 25th, 2024. The only one left
Oh,
is
too
Assassin's
late.
Creed Black Flag, and no doubt they'll close that one too. Pretty soon there won't be a single game with a donut of detection in it.
Oh, good shot.
Now what's my excuse for eating donuts? National Donut Day isn't till the first Friday in June. Yes, I've got it marked in my diary. What of it?
Why? Never mind.
Gotham isn't a city anymore.
Arkham Origins Invisible Predator. Huh.
And whoever controls the most turf is going to rule this whole town.
The problem with both
Now
my
I'm
Gotham
intrigued.
City LARPing Club and a multiplayer mode with Batman in it is that everybody wants to be Batman.
Now, honestly, I want to be Scarecrow. Or Killer Croc,
I
one of
told
them.
them it's my LARPing club. Obviously, I'm Batman. The additional problem with the multiplayer mode with Batman in it is that if you happen to be a Batman
You can also just make it the rule that no one can be Batman. I mean, that always solves the issue. No one can be Batman, so there's no arguing about who should be Batman.
Arkham game,
Ta-da.
nobody asked you for such a thing or wanted it. Such was the difficulty faced by Batman Arkham Origins, the first game in the acclaimed and relentlessly single-player Arkham series to be developed by a studio other than Rocksteady, and the first game in the series to attempt a multiplayer mode of any sort, to the surprise of Arkham aficionados back in 2013. This multiplayer mode, developed by
Not
the
bad.
studio Splash Damage, solved the problem of who gets to be Batman, not by letting everyone be Batman in a 100 Batman battle royale, honestly, my first choice, but instead by crafting an unconventional three-sided asymmetric multiplayer game in which every role is a banger. In In multiplayer,
Ooh,
you play
that
as
hurts.
either one of the Joker's henchmen, one of Bane's henchmen, Batman himself, or, good news Robin fans, Robin, who appears only here in this multiplayer mode and nowhere in the main game.
Well, this is the only place just to
Despite
get
the
them.
resounding
Well,
indifference
play
from a
'em.
large proportion
Whatever.
of Origins players, Splash Damage had delicately balanced the three sides with their different abilities and objectives for a mode called Invisible Predator. Feels like the Invisible Predator from the movie Predator ought to have copyrighted that while he still had the chance.
Oh,
In this
you
mode,
all
two
right about
teams
that.
of three thugs tried to kill each other while Batman and Robin worked on maxing out their intimidation meters, because both are sworn to never kill, only to frighten people very badly and sometimes maim them. If you were one of
One thing they actually probably could have done with that, though, is that since they just said that both Bane and Joker were trying to get the Venom, that they could have hinted at it and seen one of the Joker's scientists experimenting with the Venom and changing it. But they wouldn't be sure for what, because they couldn't never get a sample, because they were constantly fighting.
of Bane's paramilitary goons
So,
or Joker's face paint enthusiasts, you even had a shot later in the match at fulfilling the ultimate henchman fantasy of becoming your boss. Living the dream.
Neat.
In this way, Splash Damage did an unexpectedly neat job of creating a mode that no one had asked for, where even if players didn't get to be Batman himself, everyone had a chance of a good time. Like in my Gotham City LARPing club. So, can I sign you up now, or I'm Batman?
Only can I be Killer Croc. Oop. Hold on, we'll be right back. And we're back.
Congratulations, Mr. or Mrs. Citizen Rapture.
BioShock
You've been
2,
approved to
Fall
join
of
the
Rapture.
Sinclair Solutions team as a product tester
Okay.
in our home consumer rewards program. Here at Sinclair, the customer knows best. That's why we'd like to invite you to test our
They gave
home
you
defense
2
product in
guns.
the field and tell us how you
Jeez.
feel.
Overall, we wouldn't describe Bioshock 2 as the most ambitious of sequels. It takes place in the underwater city of Rapture, just like the first game. It featured many of the same plasmid powers as the first game, and the little
That's
sisters
good.
and big daddies of the first game were joined by the not especially original big sisters. No little daddies, though. Cowards. Bioshock 2, developed by 2K
what would
Marin,
that even
came with a
be?
multiplayer mode, though, and it was an almost entirely separate game built by a separate developer called Digital Extremes.
damn.
This multiplayer
Tackle.
mode was called Fall of Rapture, and the fancy title reflects the fact that this was a rare attempt to blend a proper storyline with multiplayer matches and progression.
Good evening, my friends. I hope you are enjoying your New Year's Eve celebration. It has been a year of trials for us all. Tonight, I wish to remind each of you that Rapture is your city.
The mode casts you as a citizen of Rapture
yeah,
during the
it is
plasmid-powered
owls.
civil war between Andrew Ryan and Atlas, which took place in Rapture prior to the events of the first Bioshock game. It begins in your apartment, and as you complete rounds of multiplayer and rank up, you earn not only new weapons and abilities, but also unlock news clippings and audio diaries.
I mean, I love Fred, I do, but if he won't wear the pants around here, I'll just have to pull them up over my pantyhose.
A lady married to someone called Fred who refuses to wear pants. Wilma Flintstone, is that you? The story elements
Good
detail
pun,
the
good
gradually
pun.
unfolding fall of Rapture that the title refers to, as society collapses and the citizens become more panicked. It's all stuff that fans of the series storyline will get a kick out of and contextualizes the mess you found Rapture in when you originally played Bioshock. Better yet, when you finally reach level 40 in multiplayer rank, the ending sequence plays, which reveals that all your
Ooh.
multiplayer matches have been leading up to the plane crash which kicked off the events of the first game. In fact, part of the wreckage basically lands on top of your apartment.
Andrew Ryan
Oh.
calls on each of you now to take
Shit.
hold of the great chain. Tonight, Rapture stands or falls by your hand.
Hope it's a rental, because that's really going to affect the resale value.
Resale
that and
value?
Total dissolution of society.
There's no such thing as resale value in this fallen world. Companion app. Huh. Well, okay. Oh, gee.
When Watch Dogs was announced back at E3
Damn.
2012, it was accompanied by a spectacular gameplay demo that promised a Chicago where almost anything could be hacked. When the game arrived in 2014,
Hack it all.
it was a bit of a disappointment. And not just because there wasn't a single dog in it. Players grumbled about the graphical downgrade required to fit the game on the current generation of consoles. But really, the biggest disappointment was how the elaborate, all-powerful hacker fantasy was boiled down to mainly just hacking security cameras and the odd traffic bollard.
Ooh, that was
If I wanted to
close.
ruin the day of other road users, I would simply drive around in a Fiat Multipla.
What the heck?
One area where the game couldn't be accused of being short on ambition, though, is in its unique
That was
multiplayer
terrible.
mode. While there were more conventional multiplayer options, the most interesting one came via what was known as the CTOS companion app.
Right now we're going to show you how we can connect to other players in 3 very distinct ways. Online hacking contracts, CTOS mobile companion app, and the competitive decryption combat.
This was technically a
Found
cross-platform
fetishes? What
multiplayer
the-
mode at a time when those were already pretty rare. But the difference is that one person would be on their
That was
PC or
crazy.
console, and the person they were competing against would be using a free app on their mobile phone.
You see this helicopter?
Really?
That's controlled by a mobile player.
I'm bad enough at flying a helicopter on a controller. Rather than attempting to directly control...
That actually does sound kind of cool. You got one post on screen, then you can have all the rest around you on their phones. That is actually a pretty good idea.
A sophisticated hovering aircraft by scrubbing their thumb across a touchscreen, mobile players actually controlled their half of the competitive multiplayer game from a map view, where they could watch their opponent trying to escape as they deployed police and triggered hackable traps in the city.
I can anticipate all of the hacks that the mobile player is using against me. With a tap on the screen, they can explode steam pipes, raise barriers, and cause massive traffic accidents.
In a way, this mobile app sold the fantasy of the game better than the game itself, in that you really
you know what,
were
that makes
causing
sense.
chaos by tapping away at a mobile phone screen rather than just watching the lead character do that on your TV screen in his stupid, overly complicated trench
Yep,
coat.
now you can hack.
And while there was a brief fad for video game companion apps that fizzled out pretty quickly, because most of them didn't add much at all, this one felt like a great fit for the game and allowed
Damn,
you
he
to enjoy a meaningful,
avoided that, though.
enjoyable experience on your mobile
Still
phone.
went off.
Which makes a change from the usual doom scrolling. Much better.
Just shock. Oop. Hold on, we'll be right back. And we're back. Next up. Oh, Splinter Cell. That's Splinter Cell. Spies vs. Monks. Okay, that could be kind of cool.
Gamers of a certain vintage will remember the Splinter Cell series starring Sam Fisher in his extremely snug rubber suit.
I only know him thanks to a death battle.
Just think about the sheer volume of talcum powder required to get into and out of that thing. It turns out Sam wasn't the only person capable of maneuvering himself inside a neoprene leotard. From the sequel game, Pandora Tomorrow, the Splinter Cell series introduced a unique asymmetrical multiplayer mode called Spies vs. Mercs. In it, 2 unnamed spies in equally form-fitting gear faced off against 2 mercenaries. If you were playing on the mercenary team,
Kill
though,
them all.
the game played totally differently from the single player. Instead of a third-person stealth game, it became a purposefully slightly clunky first-person shooter.
I mean, it is meant to be versus,
Honestly, that's
so...
not just my lack of ability. Not this time. Mercs were deliberately made harder to play as to allow the spies to apply genuine stealth tactics in a close-quarters multiplayer match. Mercs had no night
Good
vision,
luck.
just some much less useful
Like,
vision
literally.
modes, and the levels were all gloomy enough that a spy could be hiding in every corner. More significantly, it was one of the really early examples of an asymmetrical multiplayer mode. You know, before every 1980s horror movie had one. The wildest addition to this already unique multiplayer mode,
what?
though, was proximity voice chat, but only under very specific circumstances. If you were playing as a merc and were grabbed by a spy, they'd have a few moments to whisper something in your ear before they snapped your neck.
Oh man, that would have been
Which
actually
was
funny
a
if you had
fun
something
way
said
to
though.
find out what my mother had been up to.
Welcome to Los Angeles, rookie. The city of it.
Honestly, at that point, you probably could have done like an Aqua Teen Hunger Force reference. It's like, who got kicked off Top Chef last night?
Angels. No angels here anymore. Unless you count Angel Mendoza. Target moving south on Harper. Angel runs a tattoo salon in Hollywood. He's a recon mutant with 6 hands.
It might not be immediately obvious,
6
but
hands?
Future Cop LAPD on the
Cool.
PlayStation 1 was a continuation of the beloved Strike series, which included Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, and not Silver Strike Bowling. Future Cop LAPD imagined a dystopian future Los Angeles where the only way to deal with the crime-riddled streets is to send cops out in terrifying transforming mechs. Their job was to suppress suspected lawbreakers with high-powered weaponry and what appears to be a strong preference for lethal force.
Lethal force granted.
I know you can get rubber bullets for crowd control, but I'm pretty sure they don't do rubber rocket-propelled grenades.
No,
Believe
they
it
do
or
not.
Even for a game set in 2098, Future Cop LAPD was somehow more forward-looking than you'd expect. That's because of its unique, trailblazing, multiplayer-focused mode, Precinct Assault.
When one of your hover tanks enters the enemy base, you win. Sounds simple? I don't think so!
Instead of the straight
I
shooting
don't
and
think
occasional
so.
platforming of the
Jeez.
Crime War campaign
Well,
mode,
okay.
Precinct Assault was an honest-to-goodness strategy game, complete with bases, capturable turrets, and units. Inspired in part by an ancient Sega Genesis strategy game called Herzog Zwei, the goal in Precinct Assault was to deploy units which would follow a set path to the enemy base. If one of your tanks managed to break into that enemy base, you won the match.
Blue base is destroyed. Enemy within blue base perimeter. Blue base turret destroyed.
You might recognize this
Aha,
as the basic
red
formula for the
wins.
multiplayer online battle arena, or MOBA genre. Now popularized by Dota 2 and League of Legends. And by popularized, I mean they fill stadiums with these games.
God.
So it was pretty surprising to
That's
see
impressive.
a competent version of this sort of thing, complete with 5 separate maps, popping up in a now long-forgotten top-down shooter from EA that only sold 200,000 copies back in the 90s. And because there was technically the option to play Precinct Assault online when it was released on PC shortly after the PlayStation version in 1998, and because technically the O in MOBA stands for online, some people claim that Future Cop LAPD is in fact technically the world's first true MOBA.
You know, I guess that actually is kind of true.
Though if we're being that pedantic, we're going to have to start referring to Pac-Man as the world's first survival horror game.
I mean, people would be thinking it over and then be like, no, you're right, you're right. And here we are with the one, the only, COD Zombies. Everyone knows this one, even I know it. I even played it a little bit. It's never been my cup of tea, though.
Game developers often use zombies as the morally acceptable way to allow the player to gun down hundreds of people. But if you want to make extra sure your conscience is clean, better make those zombies Nazis as well. That's what the development team at
Extra
Treyarch
clean.
did in Call of Duty World at War, when they created the Nazi Zombies multiplayer horde mode, sparking both a fan-favourite spin-off and also an endless discussion about whether they are technically Nazi zombies or actually zombie Nazis. This is the TED Talk that will get me
I
banned.
mean, they all meant to be zombie Nazis, so... Oh. Well, okay, now I guess when you say it like that, it's zombies that became Nazis, but no. The game it's that's meant to be undead Nazis now turned into zombies.
From ever doing another TED Talk. But this Zombies mode was an entirely unnecessary addition. It's not
So
like Call of
zombie
Duty
Nazis,
multiplayer
yeah.
was exactly in need of another mode. As the follow-up to Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, World at War inherited an enormous player base for its standard multiplayer offering. It feels a bit like gilding the lily to add another bonus multiplayer mode. Leave some multiplayer for the other game developers, will ya? Still, they included it anyway. The first iteration of Zombies was limited to a single, absolutely tiny map, but it established the core mechanics that have stayed with the series since, earning currency by killing zombies and spending it on new weapons and fortifications.
Well, technically
More maps were added via the
locations,
DLC
not
map packs, and before long the
fortifications.
Zombies mode was a fan-favourite element of Treyarch's versions of Call of Duty, showing up in every Black Ops game since. These days, Zombies has grown into what someone on a video game publisher investor call would describe as a core pillar of the Call of Duty experience.